All right, what's going down, everybody? I'm Genaro. That's Duran.
How's it going?
Welcome to our channel. Today we're going to be talking about the AFC North, and that consists of Baltimore Ravens. You got the Cleveland Browns, Cincinnati Bengals, and the Pittsburgh Steelers. All right, and again, we're going to be talking their best additions, their biggest losses, as well as our favorite draft picks. And sometimes they go hand in hand, but that's just the way the cookie crumbles. All right. So, Duran, if you want to kick it off with the Baltimore Ravens and who you think their best addition is.
Best addition. So I went with Patrick Queen, linebacker from LSU.
Oh, okay. Right
Uh,
on.
the undersized three-down linebacker is becoming normal in the NFL nowadays. Patrick Queen's a proven winner playing on LSU's national championship team. He has the read and react ability to play the run and the coverage ability and speed to match up with pass catchers. So I think this is a good pickup. The Ravens had a need at middle linebacker, and he'll be an immediate starter right there. With help from the defensive line, he should be able to fly around and make plays. So I see him stepping in and making an impact.
All right, yeah. Damn, I'm glad that we're different here. Patrick Queen's my favorite draft pick for the Baltimore Ravens, but my favorite addition for them is beefing up that D-line, making that D-line even scarier by picking up the Walter Payton of the Year award winner is Calais Campbell. They got him, honestly, next to nothing. I mean, they traded a seventh-round draft pick for him, which is – honestly disrespectful because this guy's been in the league since 2008. It looks like this guy's been starting for the Jaguars for the past 3 years. Last year his stats were 56 combined, 19 assist tackles, and then he had 6.5 sacks last year. And with all the draft picks that they had along that D-line as well and everything around him, I just think that he's just going to continue to shine and bring that leadership to that locker room, which I think they're lacking just a little bit on that defensive side.
Exactly.
All right.
He was on my short list as well. I also had a cheat pick in there with Marcus Peters. I know he added halfway through last year, but in just 10 games, he had 3 interceptions, 10 pass deflections. He took 2 back to the house for touchdowns, which that's just what he does. PFF ranked him the number 4 cornerback last year, and he's just a valuable piece to that secondary. So, yeah, they've added some good guys the last year and a half.
Yeah, for sure. All right, if you want to go ahead and go over who you think that their biggest loss was.
The biggest loss, I went with the big guy, Marshall Yonda, the guard. He retired.
Same here.
He didn't go to another team. He just retired. I mean, he's been in the NFL for 12 years. He played over 85% of the snaps, 7 out of the last 8 years, only because he got hurt in 2017. He has a great history with the Ravens. He's a Super Bowl winner, 8-time Pro Bowler, 2-time All-Pro, blocked for multiple 1,000-yard rushers, starting with Willis McGahee, Ray Rice 4 times, Justin Forsett, ending with Lamar Jackson and Mark Ingram in the same year. So he'll be replaced by DJ Fluker, who's never been ranked in PFF's top 35 tackles in 7 years. So it's just going to be tough to fill in for the big man.
I'm going to have to piggyback everything what you had to say about Marshall Yonda as well. The big thing for me is something that you just touched on, being a blocker for multiple 1,000 yards rushing.
Yep.
I was excited when I heard they got DK Dobbins, but then I was kind of let down because I'd like to see DK run behind Marshall Yonda. JK. I said DK, didn't I? JK Dobbins for sure. But, I had to piggyback everything you have to say about Marshall Yonda. All right, let's go with your favorite draft pick of theirs.
My favorite draft pick was Devin Duvernay, wide receiver from Texas. I watched a lot of Texas, so Duvernay was a standout player for the Longhorns. He always seemed to step up at the biggest moments and make a play. He had 106 catches, 1,386 yards, and 10 touchdowns in his final year, mostly in the slot, but he also plays a little bit on the outside. He posted a good time at the combine, which I didn't expect, a 4.4 solid 40. So that was pretty impressive. The Ravens had a subpar wide receiving core last year with Marquise Brown in and out of the lineup. I think Duvernay adds another solid piece to there. The receivers posted the lowest passing yards in the league with less than 1,500 yards. Now, maybe that's because they had the number one rush team in the league and established those early leads, but it doesn't hurt improving your perceived weakness and making that wide receiver core a little bit stronger. But Duvernay will help Lamar Jackson continue to show us that he could win through the air.
Yeah. Well, pretty much I'm piggybacking everything that you had to say about Patrick Queen because I think that was my favorite draft pick personally. It was kind of hard because I wanted to go Duvernay, but I didn't want to be too much of a homer, me being a Texas fan. But it was either Patrick Queen or James Prochet. If you watch James Prochet play, he's not the biggest receiver. He goes up and gets the ball. He has vice grips for hands. Let me look up James Prochet's measurables. So, but while I'm doing that, the way that they got Patrick Queen was just pure. I don't know. Just patience pays off, I guess, because they waited for him. You see the Chargers go up and trade for Kenneth Murray. They snag him up beforehand, and then you think that the Seahawks are going to grab him. And the Seahawks go ahead and draft Jordan Brooks, and then they got Patrick Queen, who I thought was the best linebacker in this class, sitting right there waiting for him.
Yep.
But, another guy I wanted to touch on, too, is James Prochet. This guy's – they list him at 6 foot, but seeing him, he's only about 5'10", 190. Again, if you watch this guy play, the purest, surest hands that you see. I mean, he's going to be a quarterback's best friend. If you're ever in trouble, he scrambles with you. You just throw it up to him, and you can trust him to come down with it. All right, so takes care of the Baltimore Ravens. All right, let's go ahead and go down to the Cleveland Brownies. All right, if you want to go ahead and go over their best addition.
Their best addition for me was Jack Conklin, tackle they got from Tennessee. Yeah. I picked him because they needed help at the tackle position all of last year. PFF ranked their starters, Chris Hubbard and Greg Robinson, both out of the top 35. And Conklin steps in as a top 10 tackle. He helped Derrick Henry win a rushing title last year. So that's pretty good news for Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. He's also solid in pass pro. So that should help the third-year quarterback Baker Mayfield. He's a big upgrade in the trenches for the Browns this year, and I don't see ever going wrong with picking up a top 10 tackle.
All right, yeah, Jack Conklin, he's also my favorite addition of theirs. His position of being right tackle, as a lot of the quarterbacks are in the NFL today are right-handed quarterbacks. The right tackle position doesn't get much love unless your name is Mike McGlinchey or Lane Johnson. But Jack Conklin for sure is a really good addition. I think it's going to help out Baker Mayfield a lot. Hopefully give him a little bit more time right there in the tackle because that guy was picking himself up off the ground way too much last year. All right, so the biggest loss, who you got for the Browns' biggest loss?
Biggest loss, I went with Joe Schobert. He departed, the linebacker, and went to Jacksonville. Schobert was drafted by Cleveland in the 4th round in 2016. He had over 100 combined tackles the last 3 years, including a league-high 144 in 2017. I mean, that's just impressive, flying around the field like that. Not only was his production great, he added 4 interceptions and 9 pass deflections last year, but he was also on the field for 99% of the snaps. So that's just a big hole right in the middle of their defense. He landed a top 10 linebacker contract in Jacksonville, so you can't blame him for moving on. You can't blame Cleveland for wanting to pay that much. But Jacksonville also needed help at the linebacker position with Telvin Smith finally being out for good. So
Yeah.
big loss for Jacksonville and a good gain for Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, Cleveland Browns for sure. They that was kind of hard for me to see Joe Schobert leave that Cleveland organization, only because of pretty much everything he said. He's a sure tackler right in the middle. So that's Jacksonville's gain for sure. You can't blame for the contract that he got, which was 5 years, $53.75 million. That can also includes the $21.5 million guaranteed signing bonus of $12 million. So that was my biggest loss for them as well. Let's go ahead and see what hopefully we defer on our favorite draft choices here. So who do you got for their favorite drafts?
My favorite draft pick was Jedrick Willis, offensive tackle from Bama. And that's just to pair with Conklin. This really sews up their tackle position. He was Dane Brugler's number one tackle in this draft. Now he's projected to protect Baker Mayfield's blind side. The only concern is he's never played left tackle, so it's going to be a bit of a transition there for him. He did protect Tua's blind side at right tackle in his time at Bama. But if this transition works out, they'll have a solid starter there for 10 years.
Yeah, that's who my favorite draft pick was as well. I just really hope that he transitions good to that side going from right to left. Because hearing some people talk about it, they're like, well, if you break your, like they say, well, you broke your hands before. If you broke your right hand and you're right-handed, you're kind of fucked, because if you trying to wipe your ass, you wipe your ass with your right hand. Trying to wipe your, that was a comparison that was good to me. He's like, trying to wipe your hands with wipe your ass with your left hand, and tell me how that works out. Yeah. And that, honestly, if that's how hard it is, it's going to take some time to learn. But with everything that's going on, hopefully he does have some time to kind of sit back and just, learn the position, get his feet, get his position changed down and locked up for it. But I think he's going to be pretty solid on that left side.
Yeah, just like everything in sports, even baseball, how many guys could bat both ways?
Yeah.
It's tough. It's tough to switch it up, especially when you have that muscle memory of playing one side for 4 years. So it'll be a big change.
Even going from like shortstop to like third base, they're different spots, but one side's a hot corner, the ball's spinning towards you a different way and whatnot.
Exactly.
All right. So that takes care of the Brownies for us. All right, so that moves us to the Cincinnati Bengals. Joe Exotic Tigers.
For their best addition, I went with Joe Burrow, the quarterback, LSU. You can't ignore how big of a pick this was. We probably all saw it coming, especially after the national championship game. He has the attitude, confidence, leadership, all the things we like to see in an NFL quarterback. Another proven winner, taking LSU to back-to-back bowl games, including winning the national championship and Heisman Trophy. Impressive 2019 stats, 5,600 yards passing, 60 touchdowns, and only 6 interceptions. I think the low interceptions might have been the most impressive thing, because that usually transfers to the NFL pretty well. Last year, Cincinnati struggled with only 18 passing touchdowns and 16 interceptions, and the third worst points per game in the league. He gets this team up with some solid weapons. Joe Mixon, A.J. Green, Tyler Boyd. Newly drafted T. Higgins will bring a big body and add some firepower. So, outside of his arm, his athletic ability to scramble and pick up first downs, we've seen that all last year. I think he was worth the number one pick.
Yeah, for sure. One thing that when me and you go over the drafts and whatnot, one thing that we do like about a player is when they're able to when they have experience being around, either a coach or their father playing in the NFL or professional sports, such as Pat Mahomes and, many others.
Yep, the bloodline.
Yeah, the bloodline's always great, especially I think it helped out Nick Bosa a lot, as well as Joey Bosa with them. their dad and their uncle playing the NFL. I feel that helped out a lot. And one thing I like to touch on with Joe Burrow is that his dad is actually a longtime assistant college coach, and then especially a defensive coach. So I think that helped him out a lot with, transitioning well into playing quarterback, being able to read the defenses, getting to know like certain tendencies and whatnot. So, I think that benefited him a lot. Yeah, I mean, the list, looking at the list of awards that he won last year was it's crazy, but I'm glad they got him number one. As you said beforehand, it was kind of, written in ink right away, right after the national championship. And I do love his attitude. It's not cocky. It's more of just him being sure of himself.
Yep.
People wanted to say that, this is exactly how Baker Mayfield was when he came out. I think Baker Mayfield was a little bit more, he didn't have the showmanship that, Burrow has. And, that's something that I do like. All right. So who do you got for their biggest loss?
The biggest loss, I went with Nick Vigil, the linebacker. He took off to the LA Chargers. So last year he started every game for the Bengals, played over 92% of the snaps and even some special teams. He was number 2 on the team in tackles with 111. PFF didn't grade him very well. He was only the number 62 overall linebacker. Only other player that I considered here, though, was Andrew Billings, but he got replaced by DJ Reader, who Reader's a pretty solid replacement there. The good news for the Bengals is that they are replacing Vigil with Wyoming's Logan Wilson. He was a 4-year starter, 3-time captain, and the Bengals actually coached him in the Senior Bowl, so they know what they're getting. He's a solid 3-down linebacker that should be able to come in and start right away. He might even be an upgrade over Vigil at some point.
Yeah, they got a couple of good linebackers. The one thing that I do like about it as well is that they have athleticism at the linebacker position finally. All right, so my biggest loss was actually Andy Dalton. It may not seem like much. Yeah, they replaced him right away with Joe Burrow, and we said nothing but great things about Joe Burrow. I think it's Andy Dalton only because, man, I've just always been a fan of him. I just kind of hoping that he'd come out of it just because he came from TCU, the Red Rifle. So I was just hoping he'd come out, guns a-blazing, maybe turn it upside down. But, he had no help around there, especially with his main weapon, A.J. Green, being out. And ever since Marvin Lewis lost, I just feel like he went downhill. So hopefully, he can bounce back. Go into a sure coach like McCarthy when he's at with the Dallas Cowboys. I can presume that he's going to be the backup to Dak whenever he comes back into camp. But yeah, not much to say about Dalton. Yeah, three-time Pro Bowler, but I feel like that's my biggest loss for them. It's kind of hard to say that knowing that they replaced him right away. Like, yeah, mine was going to be Nick Vigil, but they replaced him right away. It was, within the draft with their 2 linebackers that they drafted.
Yep.
All right. So who's your favorite draft pick for them?
I went with T. Higgins, the wide receiver from Clemson.
That's surprising. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I like it because he fits with the Bengals and Joe Burrow well. I mean, A.J. Green's 32 years old. He's missed 29 games the last 4 years, and they just need more consistency at the wide receiver spot. That also goes for their former first-round pick, John Ross, who's been in and out of the lineup. As I said with Burrow, the Bengals only had 18 passing touchdowns in 2019. Higgins should help in this area. He left Clemson with the most touchdowns in school history at 27. That tied with Sammy Watkins and DeAndre Hopkins. Higgins has experience lining up inside and outside, so I don't think that'll be a problem with him fitting in when Green and Boyd are on the field. He has a big catch radius, can high point the ball, and is a red zone threat. So Joe Burrow excels in providing jump balls to his wide receivers. He has great ball placement. And even though I don't think he'll ever be an all-pro number 1 receiver, he'll bring an important skill set to this offense.
Yeah, for sure. I wasn't too thrilled about T. Higgins going that high because there's still some solid receivers on the board. But I
Yep.
understand that. Hopefully, with T. Higgins, they get his Justin Jefferson, of the draft. But I actually went with Logan Wilson as my favorite. This guy was coming out right away. He was compared to Fred Warner, and as you know, Fred Warner was actually one of my draft crushes. So if he plays anything like Fred Warner the way he did, his rookie year, that's saying a lot. At the combine, his measurables. Let's see, he ran 4.6, but he put up 21 on bench. He had a 4.27 shuttle and a 7.0 cone. So that right there shows me how athletic he is with a change of direction. So I think that, that's pretty solid for him, being in that role of linebacker, especially with their nowadays, like you said, they go a little bit undersized. And, his athleticism, his fitness, his speed, definitely show up on there. Last year, his tackles were, he played 13 games. He had 62 tackles, 43 of them were assisted, which totaled to about 105. He had 8.5 tackles for loss. He even had a sack in there, and he had 4 interceptions. So, with carrying all that to Cincinnati, hopefully with them having such a hole at linebacker, that right there makes him my favorite one. It was either between him or the other one, Darrington Evans, or Akeem Gaither. Sorry, another App State guy.
Yep.
All right, so that now brings us to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Pittsburgh Steelers. So their best addition, I also kind of cheated on this one and went with Mika Fitzpatrick. I know he
okay.
added in halfway through last year, but when Minka's wish came true and he got traded to Pittsburgh, he ended up playing 95% of the snaps every game. So he put up career numbers in interceptions, fumble recoveries, pass deflections. Those are all important numbers that I look at for safeties. He earned his first Pro Bowl, and most importantly, his first team All-Pro. PFF ranked him in the top 10 safeties, and I think the sky's the limit for this guy. He's only 23 years old, and I would have gave up a first-round pick for him as well. The only other guy I considered here was Chris Wormley, but I stuck with Minka on that.
All right, yeah. I think Mika's his first game he played was actually against the 49ers, so I actually got to see him pick up Jimmy G there.
Yep.
But then I also get to see Juice's stiff arm on him. So if you ever look at it, if you go on YouTube and you see Kyle Juszczyk's stiff arm against Mika Fitzpatrick, oh my God, it is just savage. But for their favorite addition of mine, I went with Eric Ebron. He played his last 2 years over at Indy. Last year he did get, he didn't go as far as he wanted to as play-wise, but in 2018 he's really, really shined. He was Andrew Luck's best friend, kind of that security blanket for him, and that's where he made his Pro Bowl. So I think with him, and hopefully with Big Ben coming back, him pairing up with who they already have there, and Zach Gentry and Vance McDonald, I think that helps kind of secure that tight end room a little bit stronger.
Yep.
And hopefully becomes Ben's best friend like he did with Andrew Luck before he retired. All right, so who do you got with their biggest loss?
The biggest loss, I had to narrow it down to two, Javon Hargrave or Ramon Foster. I ended up going with Javon Hargrave, the nose tackle that went off to Philly. He was the starting nose tackle, played 62% of the defensive snaps, starting 13 games. PFF ranked him as a top 10 interior lineman. He graded out great versus the run. Stephen Tuitt and Cameron Hayward are still holding it down there, but he's being replaced by Dan McCullers or Chris Wormley, both who only have 2.5 sacks in their career. It's always hard to replace a top 10 guy at his position, but I don't think they added enough talent to make up for his loss there.
No, I don't think they did. I also went with Gravedigger as well, Javon Hargraves. I think that actually this benefits Philly a lot, but I was kind of surprised because when you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, kind of the first few names that you think of are like Casey Hayward and Big Ben. But as far as the defense goes, Javon Hargrave was actually one of those guys. So it was actually kind of surprising, with them losing him. But yeah, that's exactly who I picked for their biggest loss as well.
Yeah,
What
that's a
about
good one. One more thing on Ramon Foster. He's being replaced by Stefan Wisniewski, who was a top 20 guard last year, so that's why I didn't really go with him. But Foster was in Pittsburgh for 10 years, and I would have went with him, but they found a solid replacement. I just think Javon Hargrave is a worse loss than that.
All right, yeah, definitely. Who do you got for their favorite your favorite draft pick of theirs?
My favorite draft pick was Chase Claypool, wide receiver from Notre Dame. With no first-round pick because of the Minka trade, I chose Claypool. He has great size and speed. The Steelers have a great history of drafting wide receivers outside of the first round. We got AB, Mike Wallace, Juju, even back to Hines Ward. But Juju was hurt last year. James Washington had to step in, and he led the team with only 735 receiving yards. That's just not going to cut it. Now Juju's in a contract year and coming off of knee and foot injuries, the opportunity for Chase will be there. He will step in and compete with James Washington and Deontay Johnson for a starting spot. Pittsburgh ranked dead last in Football Outsiders and offensive ranking last year. I mean, that probably had a lot to do with Big Ben being out and the QB play, but because they rank so low in passing stats, I went with Claypool.
Okay. All right, here. I actually went with little booger, Anthony McFarland Jr.
There you go.
Watching him out of Maryland, I think he's gonna be a stud. I think he's gonna start off with being their kind of third round back. He's not really too solid in pass protection, but watching this guy play, he's definitely a high stepper and he has great contact balance. He's very elusive as well. So every time I'm watching him play, he has a knack for, producing missed tackles, which is very good. I think that he will eventually take over the primary spot. It doesn't look like they want to re-sign or extend James Conner, especially with him coming off of multiple injuries and his past and whatnot. So I think they found their future star running back right there in Anthony McFarland, little bugger. All right, so that actually concludes the NFC or the AFC North. Do you have anything else that you want to touch on the AFC North?
No. AFC North is wrapped up. That does it for episode 1.4. Stay tuned for episode 1.5 where we cover the AFC South. And you could check out our other videos where we cover your favorite football team.
See ya.